What's up, everybody? Well, God bless. I hope you all are having a great week, unlike me. And with that, let's get right into it. Los Angeles Rams. Yeah, they're definitely a top five team. They continue to just keep on rolling. And another dominating win over the New Orleans Saints is just another example of how good this offense is. Another team with a good offense is the Cincinnati Bengals, but they fall into the bad tier because holy cow, their defense is awful. Like, I don't think I say this about most teams, but geez, their defense is absolutely atrocious. Gosh. The Seattle Seahawks, though, they're rising closer and closer to a top five spot. And Sunday night was yet another great example of how good this team really is. And prayers up to Jaden Daniels. We'll get to the Commanders in a minute. But this was an all around great game for the Seahawks. JSN had a great game. Darnold had a great game. And the Seahawks just continued to roll. The New York Giants are a team that is not rolling per se. Jackson Dart is continuing to play well, but the Giants are still the Giants. The Falcons fall into the Enigma tier, and yes, we did add the Enigma tier for this video, and it is not combined with mid tier. But the Falcons are a perfect example of an Enigma, as we just don't know what this team is. I mean, they were really competitive against probably a top five Patriots team, but they still didn't get the job done, and they've had some pretty embarrassing losses to this point. So the Enigma tier is basically perfect for them. The Baltimore Ravens are actually continuing to rise, and so we'll put them into the Enigma. I think I'm actually going to put them in the good but not great tier. Apart from what some people are saying, the Baltimore Ravens are actually playing pretty good football right now. And with how bad their division is, they could easily make a comeback and win this division. Someone who probably isn't going to make a comeback to win their division is the Cleveland Browns. And the problem for the Browns is they really don't have an offensive identity. Quinshaw Judkins is pretty good, Harold Bannon is pretty good, but they've really got to figure out their quarterback situation. The New York Jets are just bad all around. I mean, they had a pretty good win against the Bengals a week ago, or yeah, about a week ago. But it still really isn't that impressive to beat the worst defense in football. So you really can't give the Jets too much credit for that. And they still barely won that game. And the Jets, sure, they didn't lose this week, but they were on bye. Of course, they weren't going to lose. And the Jets, I know I'm hating on them, but they're genuinely one of the worst teams in football all around. The Saints are yet another one of the worst teams in football. I think they're a little better than the Jets because their quarterback situation, while not good, is at least average. And you can be somewhat happy about that if you're a Saints fan, but they're probably just going to draft a new quarterback in the draft. So we'll see how that goes. The Carolina Panthers, though, I'm actually going to take them out of the Enigma tier for this week, even though they are probably one of the bigger Enigmas in the league right now, as they beat the Packers, who were a top five team this past week. And now we don't know what the Packers are. But this was a great win for the Panthers, and they are suddenly back in the race to make the playoffs. The Eagles might actually be a top five team again. This was a really good bye week for them, as many of the NFC contenders lost this week. Enough that it promoted the Eagles to the number one seed in the NFC. And things are looking really good in Philadelphia now after this bye week. The Las Vegas Raiders are not a team that I would say are looking good. I mean, they were really competitive against the Jaguars, but this is still not a team that I trust this season. A team that I do trust, though, is the Kansas City Chiefs. And yes, they lost this week, so you can't really give them a rank up, but this team is still very trustworthy, and their 5-4 record doesn't really say a lot about how good this team actually is. Mahomes is having an MVP caliber season, and it's just a good time to be a Chiefs fan as always. Denver Broncos. This is a team that is really rolling as of right now. I would say that they're actually one of the hottest teams in football and definitely a contender to be the number one team in football right now. I'm not sure if they are the number one team in football, but there's definitely an argument to be made in that department. And I think for the Broncos, they just continue to beat the teams on their schedule, and they are somehow winning the division with the Chiefs in it. The Houston Texans, though, they're not that great a team. I mean, yeah, they lost to a top five team by only one score, but CJ Stroud got injured again, and the vibes in Houston are just pretty bad right now. The vibes are even worse in Miami, and I would actually say right now that Miami is the worst team in football because they are just a complete dumpster fire in every sense of the word. A team that is on the opposite end of the spectrum is the New England Patriots. What is this, 2008 with the Broncos and what is happening? But the Patriots are somehow back in the top 5 again, and I'd say right now, I would say the Patriots are one of my favorites. I think right now, I say they are the number 1 team in football, and that is really saying something about how chaotic this season has gotten. Another bad team, and we've got the Washington Commanders. I feel bad for the Commanders, to be honest, because I feel like the Commanders could compete if they were fully healthy, but they've never been fully healthy. And Jaden Daniels got injured again, and it looks like he may miss a lot of time. And it's just all around bad news for Commanders fans. The Bears, though, it seems like they're starting to trend upwards. I would say actually that they're into the good but not great hierarchy, like up higher. They're getting really close to borderline elite, I'm telling you. But another good close win against the Bengals. And what is this Bears team? I don't think anybody knows, but they almost put up 50. And we'll see how the Bears build off of this. The Steelers look like they might be all the way back. I mean, they had a pretty embarrassing loss to the Packers, but they have bounced back this week and beat a top 5 team in the Colts. And speaking of the Colts, they just had a really bad week. I mean, they had 6 turnovers this week. And sure, Daniel Jones had a bad week, but I wouldn't say this is panic time for them. They just need to bounce back. And if they can bounce back, they'll be more than okay. But for the Steelers, they actually made a statement this week by winning. The Dallas Cowboys are in the mid tier. I'm saying they're a little better than the Bengals, but really not by much. This team is still no defense, all offense. And that team did not show up against the Cardinals last night. A team that is no offense, no defense is the Tennessee Titans. They're probably the second worst team in football right now, after maybe the Dolphins. But they're still awful, the Tennessee Titans anyway. They're just awful. The Bills, though, definitely aren't awful, and they're one of the higher top 10 teams in the league right now that's not, like, in the top 5. But the Bills, they made another statement win by beating the Chiefs in the regular season again, but they really need to beat the Chiefs in the playoffs this year. Please, we are begging you. The Minnesota Vikings are one of the bigger enigmas right now. I mean, we don't know yet what this team is, and McCarthy might be the biggest enigma of any quarterback in the league right now because he played well against Chicago and Detroit, but he also didn't play very well against the Falcons and a few other teams that he has played this season. And it's just this is one of the bigger enigmas in football. But they had a really nice win against who was a top 5 team in the Detroit Lions. The San Francisco 49ers are another team that just continues to roll. I mean, CMC is finally healthy and it is paying dividends because even without Brock Purdy, I think, with Mac Jones at quarterback, they are still keeping up in the hardest division in football. The Jaguars are somehow still in the playoff race. Somehow, some way, this team is still staying in there. I mean, there is no way they should have won that game against the Raiders. It was a little too close for comfort, but you'll take a win if you are the Jaguars. Another team who would have liked to win but didn't get one is the Detroit Lions. And this week, I'm going to have to drop them quite a bit, even though I am a Lions fan, because, man, that was a very winnable game for the Detroit Lions. And I know a lot of Lions fans are calling for Johnny Morton right now, but I think right now, if we can continue to win some games, then we'll be fine. But Johnny Morton is definitely on the hot seat right now. The Arizona Cardinals, might actually be in the enigma tier. Nah, I'm gonna drop them to the mid tier or the bad tier. Yeah, let's put them in the bad tier, right behind the Texans. But this was actually not a bad win for the Cardinals, as they made a good win and they finally didn't choke in the fourth quarter. So good job on the Cardinals' part. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they go up into the top 10 teams club. If I can actually move them over here, great. And I'm going to put them right about here, right above my Detroit Lions. And it sucks, but the Buccaneers have played pretty good football. I think they were on bye this week, but the Buccaneers have played some pretty good football apart from the Lions game. And Baker Mayfield continues to play well, and that's really all you can ask from the Buccaneers. Another team that's playing good football is the Chargers, but I wouldn't quite say the Chargers are like a real contender, at least not yet. But if they can continue to win more games, I might start to put some real faith in them. And finally, the Green Bay Packers, I'm going to put right behind my Detroit Lions. I mean, you knew I was going to put them below the Detroit Lions, but I still think that this is a top 10 team, but man, that was a really embarrassing loss to the Carolina Panthers. But if you want an official 32 to 1 ranking, here we go. 32 Dolphins, 31 Titans, 30 Jets, 29 Saints, 28 Browns, 27 Raiders, 26 Commanders, 25 Cardinals, 24 Texans, 23 Giants, 22 Bengals, 21 Cowboys, 20 Falcons, 19 Vikings, 18 Panthers, 17 Ravens, 16 Bears, 15 Jaguars, 14 Chargers, 13 49ers, 12 Seahawks, 11 Steelers, 10 Packers, 9 Lions, 8 Buccaneers, 7 Chiefs, 6 Bills, 5 Eagles, 4 Colts, 3 Rams, 2 Broncos, and 1 Patriots. But thank you for watching. God bless. And with that,
Peace!